Greetings, viewers. This is King H. This is a Pan-African platform. And the issue today I'm going to be discussing has to do with Global Africa. Recently, all 54 African nations demand urgent debate on racism from the UN. This is the first time in history where 54 African nations are coming together on an issue unitedly. It's amazing it took them that long. But they should have been talking about racism in the world. But because we're busy with their own issues as individual states, thinking that they will be able to survive. Meanwhile, the West or European nations that carved Africa for what it is did so to making sure that they will not be able to survive because the West would depend on the resources of Africa. So the power of unity is vital for Black humanity. And this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. More work must be done to save Black humanity. And to save Black humanity, it will take every Black people around the world to do so. The African group is demanding the content of the debate to center on racially inspired human rights violation, police brutality against people of African descent. The African Union, or the 54 African nations, it's been a long time coming for you to be involved with issues concerning Blacks around the world, not just on the continent. For the 54 African nations to have the power to champion the issues concerning Black people in the world will involve all the Black people in the world. Meaning that the African Union must grow, must change, must evolve, and include other nations around the world that have Blacks. In other words, Blacks in the diaspora must have connections with the African Union, whereby creating a different structure that will connect Black people to express issues concerning Black people. So in other words, the 54 countries in Africa does not only have the right to speak for other issues concerning Blacks in the world, but those Blacks outside of the 54 countries also must put their voices together with the 54 countries and speak on Black humanity. You see, many Africans don't seem to understand this. There's different level of humanity in this world. You have the white humanity. You even have the Asian humanity, Indian humanity. It could go on, and then at the end of it, you have the Black humanity, which is why Blacks all over the world. Doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you're in the United States. Doesn't matter if you're from the continent of Africa. It doesn't matter if you're from Brazil. Doesn't matter whatever, Jamaica. Doesn't matter. All Blacks in the world are being treated with less humanity, as if they are not humans at all. And this must change. And the only way for this to change is for Black people to be involved on Black issues. So the death of Floyd in Minnesota by the Minnesota police has triggered a whole different discourse on the problem of racial discrimination against black people in general. Black people, it doesn't matter if you're in India, it doesn't matter if you're in China, it doesn't matter if wherever you are in Europe, they see your blackness as less of a human being, and that gives them the right, the warrant to do as they please towards black people. And that must change. And the only way for that to change is for the African Union to evolve, to change, to become the United States of Africa. And by creating the United States of Africa, other nations in the 6th region must be involved fully in the United States of Africa. It will have to take a collective African perspective to push the issues of African humanity, because African humanity has been disrespected, abused, mistreated for so long, and that must stop. But how will that stop? By creating a platform where Africans would voice out their opinions, their decisions together, collectively in this world. And I believe the only way forward is for other African diasporan nations to be part of the African Union, or to be part of the United States of Africa, to make it stronger. You see, in the past, the African Union thought they could use Asia or China as a way to defend against white supremacy. But they only brought back Asian supremacy on top of white supremacy, which is why a country like Zambia, the government will demand for the mayor to apologize to Chinese people. That's Asian superiority in the continent of Africa. If Africans cannot be in control and in charge in their own continent, in their own country, then where else can they be? Because everywhere else they're being treated as less of human beings. In China, there is some hypocrisy, but we need this. There is some hypocrisy within the African Union, but we need this unity as African people globally to champion the issues that are concerning of our African humanity. So if all 54 African countries can come together to fight against racism, why can it not take why is it taking ages to unite the African Union? Let me say that one more time. If all 54 African countries can come together to fight racism, why is it taking ages to unite the continent? Why? Unity is power. Unity is strength. Unity creates a pathway for a better future for Black people. All over the world, Black people are being treated with racism and discrimination. That is not going to change. But if we voice our opinions and decisions unitedly as African people, as global African people, we have a better chance in changing the condition of the African people on the continent and in the diaspora. So the continent and the diaspora must be linked, must be connected, must work together, must grow economically, must grow financially, must grow in every aspect, because the African diaspora and the Africans on the continent are a family. If you notice, the Chinese people, no matter where they are, they look out for their own. That goes with every other people in this world. The reason why the whites police are doing what they're doing to the black people is because their humanity is first. It doesn't matter if you are human, so long as you're not white, so long as you're not Asian, so long as you're not Indian, so long as their humanity is first. And we Africans must start thinking like that and acting like that. Our humanity must be first. Without which, they'll continue to kill us in the United States, they'll continue to kill us in Brazil, they'll continue to kill us in Europe, they'll continue to kill us in China, Asia, wherever. But when the African diaspora and the African on the continent link up and voice out their opinions together against racism, against dehumanization of African people, we create a pathway that we can become in control of our destiny, instead of giving control to others for our destiny. Africa, for a long time, has been depending on whites in Europe, whites in Europe and everywhere else, and now the Chinese, who are only bringing the Chinese superiority over blacks in Africa. Would that stop? No. But how are we going to stop that and control that from happening? It's only if we're linked up. Black people all over the world working together is the key. And Africans and blacks in the diaspora must be part of the African Union or part of the United States of Africa, if that's going to be created, hopefully. The African leaders must change and see reality for what it is. There are black people who are being killed out here, all over the world. And the African leaders must speak up against such atrocities happening to black people. So with that said, it's time for the Africans on the continent, the citizens, to stand up and protest all over Africa, all over West Africa, all over East Africa, all over Northern Africa, all over wherever you are in Africa. It's time to protest. You're protesting against racism, protesting against dehumanization of African people, protesting against the leaders of Africa who don't want unity, protesting against the leaders who have been in power for so long, who don't want to step down. This is the time to take control of the continent through a united continental protest, connecting it with the protests in the diaspora, the protests in the United States, the protests in Europe. We must stand as one African people, because they're killing us and they will continue to kill us unless we unite and create a power structure that is as equal to the white supremacy. Because white power is in the continent of Africa, controlling the leaders of Africa. For so long they have been doing that. For so long they have been controlling the economic power of Africa for their own benefit. China is doing it, which is why the Chinese government are trying to bring in their government. They're trying to bring in their military in Africa. When they have their military in Africa, like the Europeans have their military in all over Africa, we remain slaves. Because if you notice, there is no African military in any country in the world except in Africa. They don't have no military bases in the United States. They don't have no military bases in Europe. They don't have no military bases in in China. But those who think they are superior have military bases in the continent of Africa. It's time for the black people to wake up, because when they have military bases all over Africa and all over the world, the police are killing blacks in the United States. Brazil is killing black children in Brazil. In India, they just beat you up till your death. In Arab nations, they throw acid on you, push you down a building. Do that to the black people. Why? Because they hate black humanity and they want to demolish and destroy black humanity. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna add a little twist to this. You see many whites protesting in the United States and even in Europe. But those same whites are the ones contribute to racism and discrimination. You may think that they're working with you, they are with you. But at the end of the day, are they really with you? Nah. They have the reasons why they're also protesting against the government. They have their own reasons. Their reason is not your reason for protesting. It may seem they are with you because they're protesting with you, but they also have their own reasons. Because at the end of the day, the most people are being killed by police. The most people are being killed because of white power structure are black people. The majority are black people. Not people that look like whites who are dying. Some of them are, but not as compared to the amount of black people dying by police and brutality of the white structure power. The white structure power, it goes as far as the continent of Africa, as far as even Asia, which is why the Chinese are also trying to make sure that they have the power to control what is happening. And in doing so, they're trying to bring the military in the continent of Africa, where you have the military of the Europeans in Africa. So, the African Union The African Union has a big task, but they should not be the only one to play that task. They should allow other nations where you have black people to be involved in the African Union fully. The blacks in the diaspora have the birthright to be part of the African Union. So Jamaica, any countries where you have blacks, they have the right to be part of the African Union fully. That is the only way to change the black humanity. When we speak together with one voice against the injustice in the world towards black people, then we have a chance to change it. But if we think we can do it in our own countries independently, it will work, but it will work slowly. There's an African proverb. If you want to move fast, you move together. If you want to move by yourself, well, you're pretty much moving by yourself. So we must work as a team, as a global African team, because the world is killing the black people, and that must change. And for that to change, we must change to survive. This is King H. I'm out.